everyone, my name is Amanda and I'm the Fun Size Reader, and today is the day of Fun Size Book Club discussion for Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. I know you can probably hear it in my voice. I ended up getting sick. I said in one of my last videos that my whole house was sick, so I am too, which means I've been having a lot of reading time. So I was able to finish Something Wilder. I was able to read, I think, one or two other books. But anyways, today is about Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. So I'm going to start off this book club discussion by giving my star rating and spice rating for this book. So I gave this Christina Lauren book 3 stars, which is not the lowest I've ever given a Christina Lauren book, but I was having trouble between 3 and 4. But I just didn't feel like I loved it as much as I've loved some of their other books or other books that I gave 4 stars. So I stuck with 3. But I think it's on the higher end of a 3. Just didn't make it to that full 4. Spice rating on this one is definitely a 2. There are some spicy scenes in this book, but they're not very descriptive. They're more like, I don't even know how to describe it. It didn't seem like their other books that I've read. It was not the same. I don't know a better description for it. It just wasn't typical Christina Lauren spiciness of like some of their older stuff. I'm not sure why. Part of me wonders if they're like trying to branch out of the romance category and kind of pushing into the just fiction or women's fiction category where it's not as spicy, it's still got that romance element, but like just different. I did wonder that because of the switching to hardbacks, whereas most romances are not printed in hardback, they're all paperback. I don't know, there was just like kind of little things that made me think of that. I went into Something Wilder completely blind. I had only seen what other people had written in their reviews, or like, if you like this, check out this book, things like that. But short synopsis, this book is about a girl named Lily, and she is the daughter of a famous treasure hunter. And she had a previous relationship with a man named Leo that she met on her father's ranch, farm kind of thing. They fell in love, then they got separated for 10 years, and they get reunited because Leo's group of friends, who takes a vacation every year, ends up choosing her adventure, like cowboy style ranch thing to go on this week-long trip. And he doesn't know that she's the one that runs it, and so they like fortuitously meet and go on this adventure. The biggest complaint that I saw about this book was that it was less about the romance and more about the treasure hunt, the adventure. And I definitely will say that I agree with that. I think this goes back into my feeling that they're kind of shifting away a little bit from like the stark romance, where that wasn't the focus of the book. And so if you are reading, like avid Christina Lauren readers, and you read for their romance, and this one wasn't 100% about that, I can see why people were like a little put off by that. I feel like this book read like a movie. It totally, I could see it portrayed on a movie screen. It had the same like intros, and then the crazy thing that happens, and then like, I'm trying not to spoil it at this point because I haven't said that this is a spoiler section yet, but it really read like a movie. I also saw tons of people comparing this to Indiana Jones and Romancing the Stone, and I know most of the younger crowd does not know what Romancing the Stone is. It's a great old romance movie. But if you want something that's kind of a modern day comparison to Romancing the Stone, Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum is like very similar to Romancing the Stone. So if you want to like pull that one instead of Romancing the Stone, that would be like something similar that people were comparing this book to. You all are wrong. You're wrong. I'm sorry. I will stand guard like on this hill. I'm sorry. My brain can't think. I say these things and I don't know if the phrases are correct, but just laugh with me. I Will Die on This Hill. This book was not Romancing the Stone or Indiana Jones. It was not for fans of Romancing the Stone or Indiana Jones. Like, it was not. It was not like that at all. Christina Lauren released a book. Oh, it wasn't this last year. I think it was the year before. Maybe it was last year. I don't know. Everybody knows it, like, from 2020 to 2022, all the years just kind of blur together. But In a Holidays. In a Holidays was Christina Lauren's Christmas book. And that book was inspired by the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. It's a 90s movie. It's like one that I used to watch with my dad. I sometimes think that they get some inspiration, especially because we know that that one was Groundhog Day, from old 90s movies. And while people say that, oh, it's Romancing the Stone, oh, it's Indiana Jones, that is not the 90s movie that this movie was, or this book was inspired by at all. And I Will Die on This Hill. This book was inspired by City Slickers. And it was not City Slickers 1, it was City Slickers 2, The Search for Curly's Gold, or whatever the title is. I remember watching that movie with my dad when I was young, and that is this book. It is the group of city boys that are looking for, like, they were having a midlife crisis in the movie, but in this case, it's like they're looking for adventure. They're stagnant in their life. Same thing as City Slickers. And they go and they work on this, like, dude ranch herding cattle for a week. Okay, they're not herding cattle, they're treasure hunting, which is, I guess, where, like, the Indiana Jones stuff comes in. But in, you know, The Search for Curly's Gold, they're literally searching for his treasure. They're searching for his treasure, you guys. It is the same thing. A bunch of city guys from New York show up in the middle of the desert and they ride horses and they search for lost treasure. This is City Slickers 2. It is. And I'm 100% sold on that idea. So, if you have not watched it, it's great. All of you know the main character because he plays Mike Wazowski. Okay? So you all know who he is. Go watch City Slickers. They're wonderful. And they remind me of being little and watching movies with my dad. And now that I have gotten off of that City Slickers high horse, I'm going to talk about specific things that I thought about the book. So these are going to be some spoilery sections. So if you have not read it yet and you want to skip this part, like, or, you know, come back to it later, that's fine. So why did I give this book 3 stars? I had trouble focusing on reading this book, and I was not sick when I started it. So a lot of times, like when I'm sick, like I was saying, I can't find the right words. Sometimes I can't focus on reading. I have to read things that are, like, super, super simple. I did not have that problem. I was not sick at the time of reading this book. I just kept finding myself drawn away from it. I kept checking my phone. I kept wanting to, you know, do something else, paying attention to the TV where normally I could read when the TV's on. It's not a problem. So I just felt like it didn't hold my interest as well as some of their other books. I also felt like I get the whole treasure hunt thing. Like, we needed to have things that happened to get us to the treasure hunt. But I had a really big problem with them just, like, leaving dead Terry at the bottom of a canyon, right? I understand after finishing the book why things happened that way, because, like, Bradley was in on it, which I did call. I did call that Bradley was in on it. Not early, but, like, when they were reading the text messages, I was like, okay, Bradley's in on this. I think he's one of the Lost Boys. I did figure that out, but, like, I understood why things played out the way that they did. But as I was reading, and they just were like, let's keep searching for the treasure then, even though Terry fell and died at the bottom of it. In my head, I was like, no, you can't do that. You have to be responsible adults. You have to call the police. Like, you need to do normal human things that would get you to not be in trouble, not just go off on this adventure. And I think that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth as I was reading the next part. So, like, nothing seemed really exciting to me because I was like, this wouldn't happen like this in real life. But then once I got to the end and I realized that, like I said in the beginning, it really read like a movie. And I specifically brought up the movie The Lost City. Like, in movies like that, that are overly dramatic rom-com adventure type movies, like, people die in those movies all the time, and the movie doesn't end. They don't, you know, stop what they're doing. Like, they leave it and they move on. So in the sense that the movie or the book read like a movie, I understood why that happened. But as I was reading it, like before I got to the end, I was like, I don't like this. I also thought it was very, very sudden. It was like all of a sudden he's pulling a gun on them and he's holding Nick hostage. And I was like, what is happening? Like, there was no lead into it. I know that we knew Terry was kind of an ass, but I don't know. It just felt very jarring. I was like, oh my God, what is happening? So as like a reader, I didn't think that it read very well. If I would have been watching it on a movie screen, I feel like it would have translated much better. But in a book, I just didn't feel like it hit me the right way. In the end, I did end up liking the book. I enjoyed once I got past the like, this is more of a movie type deal. I don't know if I was super sold on the relationship. I don't know. I feel like because it was more about the adventure, the relationship was less built up. So like when they finally talked and when they finally worked things out, like it didn't give me the like punch in the gut feels like their other books have given me. So I didn't super like commit to that part of the book. I think, like I said, it was just because the focus was the adventure. The focus was not the romance and then the adventure. It was like the subplot was the romance, not the plot was the romance and the subplot was the adventure. I also really did like the father-daughter relationship with Duke and Lily. I know it was very stereotypical. It was the, you know, he left everything for her, and you totally could call all of that. Like, we knew it was just for her. She would be the only one that could find it. I did like that he knew that Leo would need to be there. Like, he knew that they were going to stay together or that they do this together. I thought that was really cool, but I did really like it in the end. You know, it kind of hurt a little knowing that Duke was supposed to be there with her when they did that trip, but he couldn't because he had a stroke and passed away. So that was really, like, that bummed me out. But I did like that relationship, and I like that, you know, there was that forgiveness, I think, on Lily's part, and like understanding and growth that was written into their relationship, because it was so negative in the very beginning, and kind of as her story progressed too, it was pretty negative. But yeah, Something Wilder, I thought it was good. I didn't super love it. Oh, I was gonna talk about, so I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to spoil like the way that the spicy scenes were written. They were very muted. Like you knew what was happening, obviously, but it was said in a very like flowery, romantic, this is a super lovey-dovey love story type way. And I think that it was written that way because of the plot line, that they had never like fallen out of love with each other, that they were finally back together and they were finally, you know, making things work, and this was their reuniting, and it was more about them still being in love, right? There wasn't like a lust component. And so I think that that's why it was written that way. That was my only guess, other than like them trying to get away from it being romance as the main plot and everything else is the subplot. But I at least wanted to touch on that since I said that in the beginning with my spice ratings, and I wanted to explain more of what it was. I don't know if anybody else noticed that too. Something Wilder. I'm glad I picked it for June. I think I needed something that was not a series, that was not super heavy. I mean, there were parts to this that was heavy, but not like overly heavy. So we will see what they put out next. I don't think I've seen any announcements for their next book. I don't know if anybody else has, but I haven't seen anything yet. thanks so much for reading with me this month. And I hope you liked and enjoyed Something Wilder. Let me know your thoughts either in the chat. Hopefully you've been chatting with me this time, or in the comments below. And I can't wait to talk to you about it. And I will see you for Fun Size Book Club next month. See you guys next time.